Austin's asking, who are the realistic deadline targets that we can potentially look out for at the guard position while the deadline approaches, Ian?
Yeah, I think the name that people throw out is Malcolm Brogdon, and I don't know what the cost for a Brogdon would be. He believes is under contract for next season, so that's also a consideration. Tibbs' favorite, Alec Burks. I know he's not having a great season. I don't know the interest level there, but I'm sure he could be gettable. William Bogdanovich is not necessarily bench help, but he's a player that I think Detroit will be open to moving because of where they are and where he is. And so the Knicks have had interest in him in the past, but I don't think there's an obvious fit there. I think Killian Hayes is a guy who could be available. So you look at those names and maybe DeLon Wright and Washington. I think the Washington situation is interesting because they obviously will be open for business. However, I do think in a big picture sense, I don't think the Knicks are going to give anything up that would put them in jeopardy of not being able to do a bigger move. I think that's part of the calculus here. I'd be surprised if they made, let's say they traded for a bench guy, but they traded a first or a couple firsts and, Quentin Grimes, something like that, where then you're really depleting yourself for a bigger trade. So I think that is part of what will happen here. I don't know particularly who they're interested in bench wise, but I don't think they're gonna put all their chips on the table here for that kind of player.
I think saving the powder is the most important point, Ian, because if you flash back to the Donovan Mitchell trade that everyone wants to, still always relitigate, one of the consistent messages you and I both heard was that the Knicks felt the Utah Jazz's asking price and the price that Cleveland ultimately paid was too steep to the point where New York wouldn't be able to get someone who could be better than Donovan one day. And that's, to me, still the ultimate goal and the ultimate benchmark that I would expect New York to consider. And then if I was the one calling the shots in Madison Square Garden, I'd be thinking about too, because as good as this team is, it doesn't really seem like the NBA title is truly attainable if you don't have a real top 5 player. And the names of all the players you just said, they're not Giannis or Joel Embiid or, that type of real impact, high ceiling guy that this front office is truly, truly coveting and hoping will become available after some type of playoff shortcoming or, whatever, moves behind the scenes that get these guys available. That's the ultimate pie in the sky where this team's eye is trained on future moves. I'm kind of expecting they're going to make more of a smaller move, like you're saying, than really try to use Evan Fournier and Quentin Grimes and all this stuff to go out and get someone that might not really move their ceiling all that much further than where it is right now.
One name you mentioned, Embiid, you mentioned Giannis, and the Knicks have been linked to those two guys. They don't seem realistic at this point. I would also keep them linked to Karl Anthony Towns when you talk about, that bigger name player, that bigger addition. I would keep that link there until it's not possible to be there anymore, because I think there'll always be something there.